Okay, get ready for another amazing interview on the Strengths of Diamonds experience. And in this one, you're going to learn how you can be massively powerful. You can be very thoughtful, analytical, and even psychological about how you build your business without feeling like you have to be structured and routined with everything. And you're going to learn why so many people feel like discipline really isn't a strength you need. And so I'm going to introduce you to a highly intelligent, highly powerful, very emotional and spiritual. I'll be honest, I felt very relaxed after this interview with the amazing presidential diamond, Zia Nix. Enjoy. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing interview of the oh my gosh, it's so cool. The Strengths of Diamonds experience. My friends, I have a very amazing person here ready for you. And I gotta say, one of the things that's really cool about this is one of our first real honest, like just face-to-face conversations. One of the things I love about doTERRA is that I get to rub elbows with some of the most amazing people on this planet. I mean, I really mean that. That's what this company really has done for me. And every once in a while, you see amazing people from afar, but that's it. Just never the stars never quite align, and you don't quite get to meet them and kind of share space. And this person is one of those people where I've always looked at from afar, going, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing! I would love to get to meet them." And now I get to do this live in front of you all here on the Strengths of Diamonds experience. So, without any further ado, the amazing, the wonderful presidential diamond Zia Nix. Thank you, Zia, very much for doing this.
Hey, Eddie, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. This is fun. I'm excited to do this with you. Hey, everyone.
All
This is
right.
so cool. All right,
Okay.
let's dig in with your genius. This is going to be
So,
awesome.
well, first, if you don't mind, I because we've never really had other than a conversation. Like you asked me to do a team call, and we talked a little bit about that, but we've never really had a
Mhm.
conversation, just the two of us talking. And what I'd love for you to share a little bit about your own personal strengths journey. Like, how did you get introduced to it, and what were your thoughts? And be as brutally honest as you can. I'm curious about your perceptions on this.
Yeah, so my strengths journey was I was introduced to it through doTERRA, like most of us, I think.
Oh yeah.
I have done other tests and heard about other things, but this was the first time really that I actually took the test, right? The full test. And so for me, a lot of it just made a whole lot of sense, right? With my with two the number one strength and the bottom strength especially made sense for me. And what they did for me was kind of allowed me to love those parts of me that I had always kind of questioned, gosh, why am I this way?
Mhm.
Right. So my bottom strength is discipline, which has always been just really, really hard for me. And, and always kind of felt like, gosh, why am I this way? Why can't I get it together? And then understanding, well, that's my bottom strength. It's just not one of my natural talents, really allowed me to say, okay, cool. Now I can put together a team that allows me to um, pick up where I might be not showing up the way that I would like to. So now I have assistants that hold me accountable. I have a project manager now who keeps a timeline, and they're pinging me constantly via every communication you can imagine, saying, okay, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. So it's really given me a great deal of freedom to kind of walk more in the creative space that I really enjoy.
That's cool. I love that. It's given me freedom. And this is
Mhm.
why I love strength so much is when I work with people and I go through their strengths report with them and they start to understand it. They all say that. Like every single time I feel free.
Mhm.
What a powerful thing that is. And
Yeah.
from what I've observed of you and in looking at your strengths a little bit, like I would say that resonates very strongly with you that we can help people be free. Would you
Mhm.
say that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I've learned that I've even had assistants who would they would get frustrated with me for my lack of discipline. And so now I know if I hire someone We talk about our strengths, right? I let them know up ahead, ahead of time. This is what you're getting yourself into, right? And and it works out. It works out really
Oh,
well.
that's so
So
good.
yeah.
I'm going to just tell you right now, there are so many people that I've worked with over the years that have discipline very low. And the minute they saw that word in their bottom, they started to go down the path of, I don't think I'm right for this. I don't think I'm good. I don't think this
Mhm.
is for me, and so on. Part of my own personal agenda with doing the Strengths of Diamonds thing is to prove to people that that story that they're telling themselves is not true. And it's
Mhm.
not just me being Mr. Positive guy. It's like, no, it's like, look, here's Zia, like the most amazing person on the planet with discipline number 34. You know what I mean? And so you don't need, there's no one strength that you need. You just need to embrace the ones that you got. And they're wonderful. So we're gonna go through that today. Does that sound cool?
Absolutely.
Hey, by the
Yeah.
way, on this whole discipline thing, because we'll get to what that strength means in a minute. Do you do you ever find that is a comfort to people that are in your business that like think that they need to schedule everything? You know, they have to be structured and routined. And then do you ever like get to the point where like, I just so you know, that's so not who I am. When people have to do that.
I think that honestly, I think my team knows that I'm so flawed that I really personify that if I can do this, anyone can do this. And I share those stories of, how I'm flawed and where I'm flawed and where my struggles are, right? So that everyone knows that getting to diamond or any rank is not about perfection, right? It's really not about being the perfect leader. It's about being the best version of you that you can be, right? And building the relationships and really absolutely drawing on strengths. And so before I knew about the strengths finder, and before I took the test, I knew that I had certain shortcomings. And so, the leaders that I chose to be in my front line really intentionally have the organizational skills that I don't have, right? The consistency skills that I don't have. They're very, like some of the most organized people I know. And so that's been something that's been very, very supportive in building our business, because Kai's not, I don't know where discipline is on his chart, but I'm sure it's not up at the top. I'm positive it's not up at the
Yeah,
top.
I don't remember exactly where his is, but when I interview him, we'll talk about that. It's not high up for him either. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's one of the things is that our leaders are very very aware that even before strengths, that we all have our zone of genius, our natural gifts and talents that we get to use, and that wasn't one of mine. I think there was some frustration in the beginning for people when they first started working with me before I was able to articulate that to them.
that you didn't have
But
systems or programs that they had to follow step by
yeah,
step.
no systems, so, but the great thing with that is that our leaders were able to step up in their zone of genius, right, and create systems and create different things really that would support the team. And it's been wonderful, and I come up with a lot of creative things. We run retreats, we have a ton of fun with retreats, we have a ton of fun with different training programs that we get to create. And so yeah, it's all good in the hood when you just go with the flow.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. That's probably going to be a quote we're going to use on this. I love that. All right. Let's go with the flow on this one then. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up your strengths report, and what I'm going to have you do is just read off your number 1 through number 10 strength. Okay, and then we're just going
Yep.
to have an organic conversation about these. So what is
Okay.
number 1?
Learner.
Learner. Okay, number 2.
Number 2 is intellection.
Okay. All right. Number 3.
Connectedness.
Okay. Number 4.
Input.
Okay. And number 5.
Activator.
Okay. So before I go on to the other ones, I just want to point something out here.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm seeing here is, so there's a lot of mind work with a lot of emotion type strengths. So we've got learner and intellection, which and input, right? These are very it's almost like, okay, yeah. So you're even your top 4 strengths are like this. Your learner, intellection, and input are almost like, okay, I am Zia and I am an empty cup, I'm an empty vessel, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be filled with knowledge and information that's relevant to my needs or the needs of the things that I want to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
it looks like you shine better when you show up without dictating how things should be and instead trying to learn from what things are. Does that sound right?
Yes.
So
Right
so
on.
it's talk a little bit about that. Like here, just before I even get, because man, that's a lot to unpack just that on its own, right? It's like I'm
Uh-huh.
going to show up to understand what things are versus dictate how they should be. And a lot of people think that in doTERRA, they should be really hardcore planners and goal setters, and they should know all the steps to. I can already tell that's so not you. Um, so how does this Zia Nix show up to say, okay, I'm just going to be an empty vessel, and I'm going to figure out what things are and go from there? How does that show up in your business?
Well, I, I do have a real hunger for knowledge. I'm a researcher. If I get hooked on a topic, I research the life out of it. Like, I mean, with doTERRA, I would stay up until 2, 3 in the morning just researching, right? And looking at research studies and, learning more and more. And so that's one of the reasons that doTERRA, I feel, took off for me, is because I just have this passion for it. Right. When I saw, so I'm a chiropractor for everyone who doesn't know me, and I had a practice in New York City, and I started using the oils with my patients pretty much right away, like as soon as they arrived in my office, because I do muscle testing. And so they would come up for just about every single patient that came in needed an oil. And after a day of this, I was kind of like, okay, this has never happened before. These are really something special. I get to dig in now. Right. And um, so I like attacked it with a insane, ferocious desire to get more information. So I think that really, it helped and it hindered, because I had a ton of information that I was really excited and passionate about, but then I was teaching these crazy, complicated classes,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Of
so
course.
I had to learn how to calm it down for that. But I also have a strong desire to know people and to understand people and what drives us, and how to support healing, and understanding that supporting healing also means supporting the emotions, right? And supporting, people need to feel like they're on purpose in order to feel like they're in an optimal expression of health. And so I think between those two things, where I really learned to, how to motivate, how to inspire, how to support people in dreaming big and going after their dreams, um, that the two of those combined really turned out to be a great combination for building my business.
Okay. All right. So there's 2 huge things in there I want to point out for people that are watching, that I caught. The first one was when a person would come in into your practice, right? And to get
Yeah.
adjusted. The first thing you did you do muscle testing with specific oils, or is that what your process was right when they come in?
No, because so when I first started using the oils weren't a part of my practice.
Right.
So the way that I worked, I had a menu of things, and I would check what the person needed in that day.
Okay.
And it would be, adjustment, emotional work, nutrition, right? Detoxing. There are different things. I had a cold laser, I had different modalities. And then I had at the bottom was the other category. And these were things that I rarely used. I might, know about, but haven't really started using. And sometimes it's refer out to
Mhm.
someone else. And so I kept getting this other category.
Oh,
And after getting the other category and narrowing it down to the oils, a couple of times, then you get to the other category for the third patient in a row. And now you go straight to the oil, right?
okay.
And so they really, I started using them before I ever really understood doTERRA as a business
Mhm.
or understood what made the oils so powerful, right? With the testing, I didn't know anything about that stuff the first day they arrived into my office. So it really built a great deal of confidence and certainty for me
Okay.
in using the oils. And yeah, and it was just like, holy smokes, these are special, right? And then the research began.
And then you just went did the deep dive and started researching everything. The input strength is what you're describing really heavily. So
Mhm.
when you all right, this is kind of cool because I'm glad you have intellection high as well. A lot of people who have intellection highs tend to um, be frustrated with it. Maybe similar to you is that it's so relentlessly energized by understanding the why behind everything. And when I
Mhm.
mean relentless, like it's like trying to find, it's almost like you're trying to find the why behind the why behind the why in the hopes that someday you'll find a foundation, but there's even a why behind that, right? And so
Mhm.
it's just always deep diving. Yes. And then you couple that with input, which is like you said, a relentless researcher. It's like human Google.
Mhm.
So if we were
Mhm.
to partner those two strengths together, input and intellection, I would say that it's fair to assume, and you tell me if you're right, that you have a wealth of knowledge of the meaning behind everything.
Yeah, yeah, I'll say that. Sure.
Yeah, and so this is funny because that makes total sense when I think about the way people whenever people share their opinions of you. Like when I mentioned, oh my gosh, Zia Nix is going to be in our event, I would say she's like they would say things like that just kind of showed that they knew that you had a lot of powerful, deep information. That was, I
Mhm.
would say, even spiritual in nature. So like I'm looking at that picture behind you, like this, look at that. Like that looks exactly like what we're
Mhm.
talking about is this knowledge of depth behind things. And it seems like I'm
Yeah.
looking at that smile on your face. It's like, oh, that's exactly how I operate. I want to know everything
Mhm.
about everything.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely do. I also do. You said I need to know why. I do to a certain extent, right? Because
Okay.
then at a certain extent, I understand that um, were we to know everything, we if we were to know God's thoughts, there'd be a window, right? Like some things are just unexplainable, and so there is a quest for knowledge and understanding and a deeper understanding, and there's also a tremendous amount of trust and faith that allows me to kind of step back and say, you know, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
trust
So
God
we're
to
we're
be.
we're dancing towards your activator strength. Before I kind of go the rest, let me just ask this one question: how has
Mhm.
knowledge? Okay, like think about this on a practical standpoint. Like if I was a fly on the wall, what would and if I was a fly on the wall during your DoTerra business building journey, what
Mhm.
things would I see you do that was a representation of your combining knowledge and then faith of what you don't know, but are hoping is true or just relying on? Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. Let's see. I mean, certainly in the things that I teach about, I just taught a webinar on the pineal gland and third eye activation and how to use the essential oils to help to activate and care for the pineal gland and why it's important, right? In in the world today. So I think that's probably a prime example of what you're asking for.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is gonna be cool, nerdy moment I'm gonna have right here. Because I've
Okay.
in the last like year, I've understood or learned a little bit about the pineal gland. Uh,
Mhm.
and what basically the if you could like sum up what that is and drop some really cool info, because I know that this is gonna help a lot of people when it
Mhm.
comes to what's limiting them, right? So if you could explain what the
Mhm.
pineal gland, what does it do basically, and then how does this apply to anything, and of course, doTERRA, building a doTERRA business.
Sure. So the pineal gland is a little gland in your brain. It's associated with the sixth chakra. It's known as the third eye as well. It's about the size of a pea, but there are a lot of texts that say it should actually be the size of a cherry, and that it's atrophied over the years because it hasn't been used. There's also different things in our environment that cause it to become compromised. And on X-ray, it's been shown that there's cysts and calcification on the pineal gland. And so, when our pineal gland is activated and it's functioning properly, um, it's not just the third eye. It's you know it's the source of creativity, intuition. It's our connection to God and to Source.
Yeah.
Um, it, it's kind of I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. I've been to a bunch of his workshops, and he calls it. He says it's a radio receiver. It's a radio receiver between us and the divine. And so when we look at the different things in our environment that have compromised the function of the pineal gland, which is fluoride in the water,
Yeah.
right, is a
Uh,
big cause of calcification.
Fluoride. Like that's insane. Like we've been
Yeah, right,
shutting this thing down our whole lives. Wow.
exactly. Right? Fluoride in our toothpaste, which is why it's so awesome that doTERRA has a fluoride-free toothpaste, right?
Yeah.
Um, Chemtrails, right? We still don't know what's in the chemtrails, but there's a big possibility that those also are affecting it. Um, EMF, Wi-Fi, 5G, all these things, right, are affecting the pineal gland, which, in understanding that the pineal gland is the radio receiver between us and God, and the source of our creativity and our intuition and our connection to all things, that this bombardment of things that would impede our ability to connect would be really a way to slow down our evolution, right? The evolution of humanity. And so the good news is that there are lots of ways for us to combat that, right? Frankincense is an incredible one. There's actually a PubMed study. So the pineal gland produces melatonin. Okay, this could become a 2 hour long lecture. So I'm going to
Oh,
say
this
this
is
really
so
quickly.
cool. I'll keep with you. You keep going because I love this. And this is going to help people build their business because they understand that it's not just about us telling them what to do. A lot of times
Yeah,
people want, they just see, just tell me what to do. Okay, so first thing to do is to shut or to grow the thing that inspires you inside of your brain. Like this, there's a,
exactly.
you know what I mean? So you don't have to feel like you can't do this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is huge. So let me get you back on track. So you said that the frankincense can help with that. And what was the other things?
So the pineal gland produces melatonin.
Yeah.
And melatonin, it's being found, melatonin has always been associated with sleep. But in the alternative healthcare community, we've always known that it does much more than that. And so now it's being discovered more and more, I think more and more embraced by more doctors outside of the alternative arena, but still not mainstream. That melatonin is actually kind of a magical elixir for youth and vitality, right? And it's incredible for our immune system. It's just to feel good, mood support. It's really a magical
It's a hormone,
thing.
right?
It's hormone,
Yeah.
yeah. And so there's actually a PubMed study that shows that lavender oil helps to increase blood serum levels of melatonin,
Mhm.
right? So there's definite science behind the idea that essential oils can support our connection, our longevity, our vitality, right? And with melatonin being understood more and more as just this magical elixir of life, almost the fountain of youth, um, that there's really this mystical quality to the essential oils that works with our bodies to support us in having that connection with all that is.
Okay. So good. Thank you so much. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about your number five strength, which we'll get to this little cool bit of information I want to share. But this is basically what you're talking about is helping people find the like because I mean people go to trainings and programs in the hopes that they'll learn something that'll help them build their business. But what we're talking
Mhm,
about right now is about how you can find that from inside. You can find
mhm,
that in you. The thing that you go to
mhm,
trainings and programs and motivational speakers for, you can create that from within.
mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
it's so good
absolutely.
because that's going to give a lot of people freedom to not feel like they need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to constantly be around motivational speakers when they can kind of work to create it for themselves. So we're looking at the pineal gland, we're looking at melatonin, and
Mhm.
a couple other things. So that was awesome. Thank you. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. I mean, the pineal gland, this is ancient knowledge. It's not new information. This is knowledge that has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So the pineal gland it was in ancient Egypt, it was in Rome, it was in Greece. It's for thousands of years, there's been this knowledge. And so, it's kind of knowledge that has been kept from us. I mean, there's a giant pine cone at the Vatican, right? And I believe it's called the Court of the Pine Cone or something like that,
wow.
right? It's massive and it's all over on the candlesticks at the Vatican. And there's tons of Catholic symbology with the pine cone, right? And so this is knowledge that it's just been kept from us. But what it points to, the reason I say that is that it points to really how um, humans are built um, uh, very we when we say we're spiritual beings having a human experience, yes, and we have a very spiritually crafted, energetic vehicle, which is our body, that allows us to move through these different stages of growth and eventually enlightenment because we have the chakra system, right? And a lot of people call that the stairway to heaven, which I love, right? And so it's really because we've forgotten this information, we've forgotten how much power we have, we've forgotten who we are, we've forgotten how easy it is to access information, right? Simply by tapping in. There are lots of people who can just kind of tap into the Akashic records, and right, we all have this ability, right? No one has like special powers or anything like that. It's just that a lot of us have forgotten because by design, right? The
Well,
same
yeah,
reason that there's
I feel
the
like a
same
lot of
reason that
us.
there's fluoride
Right.
and that kind of thing. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I feel like not only have we forgotten, but for a lot of us, it's been beaten out of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Or
Um,
made fun of,
yeah,
right?
for being
Or
queer,
made
whatever.
or made or made illegal. Essential oils were illegal for a long time,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Yeah, so I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to share with you real quick about your number five strength, and then we'll go to the rest. So look at that. Just on top five, we're already pulling out massive value. But the feeling I'm getting, Zia, is that this whole motivation for you is to create a divine source that you can rely on impulsively. Would you say that that's true?
A divine source that I can rely on impulsively.
Without having to
What do you
think,
mean?
you know what I mean? Without having to think through decisions. In essence, to trust in your gut. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. So that is, I don't, yeah. I mean, I can say that I absolutely trust in my gut. I trust my intuition over everything else, anything that, the facts are telling me, anything that people say that I should be doing or should be following. I trust my gut over all of those things 100%. Yes.
Yeah. So your number five is activator, which is an impulsive strength. And
Hmm.
what that means is that activators get ideas or inspiration, like you're talking about, right?
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
and then when we're from on a chemical level, we're talking about the pineal gland, melatonin, and there's many other things that are involved. But ultimately, your impulses that get you excited to go, oh my gosh, I want to go do something, but I need to do it with a certain group of people. And it could be a lot of people or a few people or select people or certain types of people, whatever. But whatever it is, it's about I have an idea and I want to go do this with a bunch of people. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I don't care because I'm excited. I got to go do it because I feel in my gut this is the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so for you, and I get this, there's a balance of, oh, yes, I love knowledge, but I need to put it into action.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It has to be useful in some way.
Okay. Cool. So, what is number six?
Self-assurance.
All right. So, more trusting in your gut. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. And number seven,
Arranger.
arranger. Okay. So, being able to see things and how to put them together for maximum something, maximum knowledge, maximum connection, maximum productivity, things like that. Number eight,
Maximizer.
well, there it is, maximum again, right? So never
Hmm.
satisfied. Anything can be improved on. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Number nine.
Ideation.
Okay. Being fascinated with ideas and seeing meaning behind ideas that most people would miss. Would you say that that's totally you?
And relator.
Aha.
Yes,
Keeping the
absolutely.
keeping the circle small. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
Okay, so so when a person is a high relator, by the way, just out of curiosity, is includer in the bottom seven or eight? You don't have to tell me where, but is it in there or is it somewhere in the middle?
It totally is. Yeah.
Okay. So here's why I'm bringing this up. So high
Okay.
relators, low includers, and this is obvious. Like this is clear for me and everybody else. But when I explain this to you, you'll go, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So high
Yeah.
relators, low includers have a high demand for relationships. In other words, those relationships must be deep, real,
Hmm.
powerful. No small talk. I don't want to talk about the weather, yada yada yada. It's more about like all the things that we've been like, you know what I mean? Like we went deep in some of this conversation we had already. And you require
Yeah.
that in your relationships. And so what high relators do is they typically assume that most people don't want to get that deep. So they keep most people at a distance until they have shown that they want that depth and are trustworthy. That they don't have some sort of an agenda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So was that do you feel like that's you?
That's that's 100% me. Yes.
Yeah. So you even though you are a person who
Oh,
cares about
that's
people, like look, we're just you care about people deeply, like not just people, but like the energy inside of them, where they were and before and after, all of those things, you care about those things, but you can come off as introverted because of your high demand for depth. Would you say that's true?
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I mean by relators, keeping the circle small, which means that the circle is going to be tight. It's going to be like intense, which means that you've
Hmm.
got three or four people that if you were ever in a serious trouble, you could pick up the phone and call these people, even if it's like 3 in the morning, and say, I don't have time to explain, but I need you right now. Please come to this place or whatever. And you know that they will get on a plane or get in a car or get in whatever and be there
Yeah.
because you would do that
Yeah.
too. And that's the circle you've built.
Yes.
Powerful. You can rely on that.
Yeah. That's so cool to hear that broken down that way. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so here we've got this depth of knowledge. I hope you're having fun with this because I love listening to you talk. You
I
have this
love it.
depth,
It's so fun.
you have this depth of knowledge that is powerful and
Mhm,
meaningful, and this high expectation for truth and honesty and connection,
mhm.
right? So it's almost like your connection with the people that you're around goes deeper than the physical and the emotional. It's even spiritual.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There, in my, I guess my inner circle, um, what I consider to be some of the highest quality, most stand up men and women that I know. That's why they're in the inner circle.
Perfect. Okay.
So yeah.
So man, we could talk so much, but we for sake of time, I got to move a little bit. So just so you know, I'm having a wonderful time, but I'm only moving because of time. I would love to have more conversations with you on this. I just want you to know that. Okay,
Oh, me
so
too.
cool. All right. So I just want to point out one thing real quick. Oh, I love it. I love strategic thinkers. So you got, am I right? Okay, 4 strategic thinking. Okay, in your top 10, and then
Mhm,
we've got 1 relationship here. Activator, ranger, maximizer, relator. Okay, 2 relationship. Okay, and then um, here's your activator, which is that influencing, self-assurance, which is influencing, maximizer. Okay, I got it. So you are a strategic thinker influencer, which means that you love to do everything in a way that honors your desire to think, create, learn, and use that to help others move forward. Is that true?
yeah. 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 Beautiful. I love it.
So if I was crafting your what I call a strengths proclamation, which is kind of letting the world know who Dr. Zia Nix is she is
Mhm,
about knowledge and forward growth and movement and improvement. So
mhm,
if you want to roll in that circle, you're going to get a lot of that.
mhm. Yes. Amen.
Love it. I love it. See, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, cool. All right. So you and I are like, we're on the same level on not necessarily say the same level, but the same desires. Like for me, but mine is flipped. So I've got 5
Mhm,
influencing and 3 strategic thinking. So for me, the
mhm,
impulse is first to move people forward and then learn from that or create from that
mhm,
versus you the other way. You're more of a I gather the info and then I go and share it with others to move versus me where it's like I just tell people let's do things and then what do we need to learn? I don't know, we'll learn it on the way. You know what I mean? Like
mhm,
that's a little bit more but you've got some of that too with your activator, which is pretty awesome.
mhm.
Okay, let's breeze through your bottom 5 real quick so we know now that we have really great understanding of who you are, why these are bottoms, and I'll give you a lot more freedom on this one. What is number 30?
Okay. Context.
Okay, so doing things the way things have always been done. That is not something you're interested in doing.
Not at all. No.
Not at all. All right. So,
Har-
uh, but that resonates with you instantly, right?
oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Number 31.
Harmony.
Okay. Worrying, and I mean that worrying about whether or not the masses of the people are going to accept you. Like if you have to worry about it, shuts you down,
Yes.
right? Okay. 32.
Consistency.
So what I love that you have that one low too. So what that means is that you're more energized by seeing what's unique about a person versus how they are the same or common.
Mhm.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
This stuff
consistency,
works.
go ahead, say that again.
I said, this stuff really works.
Yeah. um, so in other words, consistency, people of high consistency are energized by doing things in a way that anybody could follow, but you are more about customizing things for the needs of the individual,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. So like, for example, if I say, okay, Zia, I've got 1,000 people and they need your training, you're going to be like, oh, well, I first need to know who these people are. Why are they here? What do they want? What are some of their personal issues? So I can then customize my talk or training or whatever it is I'm doing for their needs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then 33.
You're gonna laugh. Includer.
There it is. Okay. So,
It is.
um, okay. So to give you a break on this one, it would physically drain you to feel like everyone's feelings and opinions must be heard and honored. That would
Mm-hmm.
shut you down. That would lock you down.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons why harmony is low as well. You know what I mean? It's almost like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, this makes sense. Your outward application of your strengths comes from a divine source, not from heeding the will of the masses.
100%. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Gotta breathe on that one for a sec. Because I'm so, I mean, like I feels like the things I need to do must come from a higher power, a source, rather than worrying about what the collective wants.
Yes.
Okay, all right, and then 34 is discipline, right?
Yes.
So structure, routine, doing the same thing every single day, every hour, and mapping out what you're going to do every hour. This is also draining for you.
Yes.
So if I were to, let's say, if I were to coach you, the worst thing I would do, and this is, I'm really kind of putting this up for all people who have discipline and consistency low, is for me to map out what you're going to do every single hour and then hold you accountable to doing that every hour on those times. Like nothing would get done.
Absolutely nothing would get done. I've had coaches who've tried to do that and who I pay a lot of money because I thought I needed more accountability. And I would avoid my calls with them. And I'm paying a lot of money for these calls. And I would find all kinds of reasons not to do the calls. So yeah, 100%. The structure doesn't work. Yeah, there's got to be flow.
Okay, there it is. There's got to be flow. I love it. Man, that's going to free up so many people. Yeah, like I talk to so many people who feel like they can't be successful because they're not consistency and discipline, the strengths. And they think it
Mhm.
means consistent or disciplined. Like I would consider you someone who is very disciplined, but to the idea that things must flow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I make sure that I get things done, right? There's a definite, part of me that it's kind of like just do it, just get it done, right? Make it happen.
Yeah.
But it's probably not going to be on, that structured kind of a time schedule.
Okay. Okay. So that's freedom.
Hmm.
Right. All right. Last two questions and then we'll wrap up. This is awesome. One question on this one. What is one way, and you can even go into detail if you like, one way you enjoy building the business or have enjoyed building the business that's helped you be successful that you enjoy doing without worry about whether or not it's duplicatable? You know what I mean? You're just so energized by it. You don't care if it's duplicatable. You just do it because it makes you happy.
Yeah, yeah. I think, this is where Kai and I come together in our business is that we love doing events. We love doing retreats. We love having parties. Like we have some blowout parties that are just insane that no one's going to duplicate because they all want to come to our parties. They're not going to they're not going to break off and do their own, right? That's
Yeah.
something that we know is going to happen. We don't want it to happen. It's one of our most favorite things. right? That we do. And so I think that is, that's really a big one. We decided early on what we want the culture of our team to be. And, I don't know that team culture necessarily can be duplicated, right? Because it's got to be in your own vision.
What
And
was
so
your vision?
certainly, I consider the team is we create it in a way that the world that we want to live in, right? And so the world that we want to live in is fun, right? People are celebrating, people are supporting each other. It's a safe space really to step out big in the world, not worry about failure, know that, we're going to celebrate you just because you stepped out in a way that's outside of your comfort zone, that's outside of your your norm. And so it's really a high vibe space where there's just a ton of support, where you know that if you jump and you go for it, that there's going to be a whole team to catch you, right, and tell you how awesome you are and celebrate you, and that we party and go crazy afterwards.
That's so good. I love that. Like so basically what you're saying is for someone who's trying to build a business, maybe they haven't even started or they've started and maybe things aren't going the way they want. Maybe it's a good idea to stop and say, what kind of environment do you want? What kind of a team do you want? What kind of lifestyle do you want? And you can create that right now. Like the things that you're sharing here, the world we want to live into, where we're not worried about failure, we're high vibe space and support and to help people and encourage people and so on. You can create that whether you have money or not,
Oh yeah,
right? You
yeah. I
can.
mean, that's not something that started after we, became presidential diamonds. It's something that, a really great piece of advice that I got from one of my upline when I started was behave from day one as if you are the CEO of your own $1 million organization, because one day you will be.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we are. Right. And so with that understanding, it was kind of like, okay, well, and maybe it's part of the relator piece is like, what kind of people do I want to work with? Who do I want to surround myself with? Right? What environment do I want to create for them to function inside of? Right? And what's going to lend itself the most to um, everybody being able to thrive and reach their ultimate potential, right? And that you don't need money to decide what that is, right? You kind of just need clarity, you need vision, and you need the ability to understand the power that you have to make an impact.
Perfect. So good. Okay, Zia. Um, we got a really good dose of who you are, and
Awesome.
it was so awesome to hear you talk. What I'd like for you to do now that we've kind of had this conversation, really understanding what's wonderful about you, we got so many great nuggets here. Um, if we were now that we're celebrating what's wonderful about you, if you were to go back in your mind without talking about what happened, because that's not relevant, think about a time when where you were worried that who you were was too much or not enough, right? Or maybe something crazy
Mhm.
or whatever or weird. And
Right.
in those times, you could feel yourself hesitating or slowing down or even rolling backward. What advice would you give to yourself now, knowing and more of an embracing of your strengths that you've done over the last, obviously, years?
Um, I mean, I think a really clear example that I can think of is when I first started doing this, and I was listening to um, a coach who teaches network marketers, and he was saying how important it is to be organized, and by far, the people who are the most successful in network marketing are the ones who are the most organized. And that if you're not organized, then like you better get organized. And I was like, well, I'm screwed. Right? And it really, it just, it really gave me so much doubt that like, wow, I'm not at all. And so, what does that mean? And you know, in the beginning, I had so many people getting started because I just jumped in with both feet. And so I had so many people I was enrolling, and I was like losing track of people. And, you know, we didn't have the CRMs that we have now, and the, you know, the different systems. And, you know, I had little pieces of paper that were everywhere. And I thought, gosh, you know, I'm gonna have a problem with this. And turns out that I never did. You know, I mean, here we are 8 years later, and we figured it out, and it worked out. And I don't know where that coach is or what he was doing, but he was an expert, right?
Yeah.
He knew his stuff. He was very, very successful as a coach. And turns out that he was wrong.
So what would you, in that moment, when you heard him say that and you're like, oh no, I'm screwed, what would you say to yourself in that moment? Like you just kind of grab yourself by the face and you turn your face to you and say, listen to me. I want to tell you this. What would you say?
I would say that uh, I would say that if one person can do it, anyone can do it, right? If one person can get to that level, anyone can do it. I don't care if they're organized. I don't care if they're not organized, right? It's like, what is it? The 3 minute mile, I guess, that if one person can get there, we all absolutely have what it takes to get there. And if you have a vision of yourself getting there, I truly believe that there's no way that we're given a vision for ourselves and for our lives, our greatness, that in any way, shape, or form we are not able to achieve. It's just not how we were made, right? We're made magical beings, right? The pineal gland is like, it's a magical gland, and our everything about us is that. And so it's reconnecting to that, that knowing and that certainty that, you know, if you have a vision, it's coming from something greater than you, and we have no right to deny
That's awesome. That is so good.
it.
We have no right to deny it. None.
No,
No.
none. I mean, we
Oh,
can try, but it probably won't lead to a happy, fulfilling life.
right. I'm willing to bet that. I'm willing to bet the rest
Yeah,
of my life on that it
yeah,
won't lead to a happier life.
yeah.
So, oh my gosh, thank you so much. All right, everybody who's watching. Woo! That was amazing. Dr. Zia
Yay. Thank
Nix
you.
in
That
the
was so
house.
fun. That was so fun. Thank you for inviting me. Gosh, just to get to experience with you firsthand, one on one. It's a wonderful gift.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh my gosh. All right. I hope for those of you that are watching this, I hope you took lots of notes, and I hope that you are going to own the lessons you learned today, because that when you get that feeling when someone shares truth, like that is truth that we need to hold on to and never forget, and never allow anybody else to push it or beat it out of you. It's truth that you want to own, that will bring the joy and the happiness that we all want. And growing our business is just going to be a symptom of that. You know what I mean? A part that's just going to go with you. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. Have a wonderful day. And Zia, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.